The Department of History and Civilization has been very active since the creation of the EUI, created as a department to look back at the culture as well as the history in the political sense of Europe. And this was the reason for its title, Histoire et Civilisation, but also in fact because of the range of students coming across Europe, initially only from 6 countries, but nowadays from a much larger number of countries. The department role is to look at the history of Europe from the Renaissance onwards, that is from the 16th century. The history of Europe, of course, goes back much further than that, and the concern about Europe is in many ways somewhat more recent, much more recent, and in any case certainly a concentration on just the 19th and 20th centuries, or say from the French Revolution, leaves out the way one can interpret, the way historians interpret the past history of Europe. Europe, in terms of the cartographers, only found its borders at the very end of the 18th century. Before that, one didn't know where Europe ended. Europe nowadays, of course, we know very clearly, and not least because of the European Union. But in fact, the department's concern is not just with Europe in its own right, but spatially with Europe and Europe's impact on the world. That is, it means with the history going back to early colonialism, to the discovery of America, and then right through the colonial period and to the post-colonial period, with now considerable research on the way that the countries which used to be colonies or part of empires, European empires, now interpret and reinterpret their own history, and it looks very different. The advantage for the students, which has always been apparent, is that the staff, the teaching staff, comes from so many countries, as the students come from even more countries. And this is important because education in any country is highly national, whereas when they come to the institute and they've already got their first degree in working towards or starting on a doctoral thesis, it's very important for them to realize that what they were trained in, or the way they were trained in it, and the values that were attributed within each country were not, of course, the only values, and that to adopt a national approach is not just not helpful for Europe, but it's not helpful for historical understanding. One of the great successes, I think, of the EUI has been to show this and demonstrate this. The theses have come out of very high quality from the history department. They've been about cultures and civilization as much on specific subjects, as much as on political or social or economic history. And they have ranged very widely, and the students have certainly improved over the years that I recall in my 9 years here. So in all this sense, in all these ways, the History and Civilization Department plays a very important and serious role, and it's not insignificant that a very substantial number of successful PhD students, and they've virtually all been successful, have then gone on to academic posts. 4 of the students I was responsible for example, have chairs in France, and only 1 is French. And that again in itself is a sign of the times. It's the opening up of France as well at that particular moment, but even so it does show, I think, the quality of the research which is done here, the environment which it gives the research students, and what the history department offers for the students who come to it.